Good morning. Hi, guys. So today what I'm going to do is just go through the entire process of making a postcard from some images that I've taken, and also go over some of the things that you might encounter that because for the last couple of tutorials everything's kind of been pre-chewed for you, but this is going to be working with raw images and making sure that everything is done to specifications. I thought I would start by just going to the website UPrinting. It's one of the three places to go, and going to their standard postcard area and looking at what was available. I decided that for this postcard I would do a 5x7 or a 7x5, whichever one you want to call it, landscape. I was going to choose 16-point cardstock gloss, and we all know that we need both the front and the back to be printed. Quantity is 250, and that does fall inside of my pricing. So with that being said, what I needed to do was to get the template. Obviously I can just see what they request for a 5x7 and then make it myself the way we've been doing it on Photoshop. But since they have a template available way at the bottom here under Adobe Photoshop, I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to find the 5x7 portrait, or I want landscape, so 5x7 landscape postcard. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and download it, and it's going to just download here. And it's going to open up in Photoshop because that's what it does. And you'll notice that right away it's giving you some of the things that you're used to. It has the trim lines already in there. It's got some guides for both the outside and the print safe area. Everything is kind of in a folder, and it tells you what you are able to do. Notice that you have some locked layers, like the background layer is locked, the up printing template is locked. What I'm going to do is just going to turn everything off. I might unlock the things, and what I'm going to do is select all these layers, and I'm going to just hit this little group folder. And what that's going to do is just going to put everything in a group, and I'm just going to call this UPrinting stuff. And I'm going to turn it off. So I'm kind of left with this space right here with some of the guides. If you don't want to see these guides, or you don't care about these guides, I want you to go ahead. You can go ahead and get rid of them under Windows, or I'm sorry, under View, Clear Guides, and that's going to clear all the guides away. And then you're going to start with this this just empty space, which is what we want. Now I want you to be aware up here it says CMYK, and that is because the template that UPrinting provides you is the CMYK template. If you went to image mode, you could also see that this document, because of the check mark, is in CMYK. So it is actually set up for color printing the way they want it. Now I'm going to have you guys switch it back to RGB color. Just do it. You should be working with RGB color because we talked about this. It's a bigger color space. The online companies usually go from RGB back to CMYK. Also, when you export this as a JPEG, which you will, it'll just be a higher quality JPEG that you can use for other things. So I'm going to hit RGB color here, and that's going to turn everything back to CMYK. Now we're not going to merge the layers because that's going to get rid of everything in this folder. So don't merge. And what you have now is just a 5x7 inch postcard with a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch bleeds. And so when we go to the image size, you'll see that it's 7.25 by 5.25. And this is exactly where we would have started if we were making this document from scratch, if you remember from the last tutorial. So we're at the beginning of where we want to be, and I wanted to show you a couple inspirations. So I have this work in progress as an inspiration, and I would like to actually show you guys how I would approach making something like this from scratch and using my own fonts, my own text, and my own graphic design work for it. So let's go ahead and just bring that in. So what I'm going to do is take this folder that's on my desktop. I'm just going to drag this into the space, make it larger. And remember, you don't have to hold the shift key down. It'll just make it a little bit bigger. I just want it large enough where it actually fits in the space. We're going to use this as a guide, but we're not going to actually use this in our design because I don't want to steal anything here. I'm going to hit return to save it. And notice that it is a smart object. We all know that to make this a regular object, a regular layer, we have to rasterize the layer by control clicking on the actual word. And I'm just going to put a template here so that I know that this is just a template. And I'm going to go ahead and lock this using the little lock icon that you see right here. This way I can't touch it or move it because it'll be locked. Let's create a new layer above this template layer so we can get started working. Next to the trash can at the bottom right, there's a little plus icon. If you click that, it's the new layer. And I'm going to just call this a band. And because we're going to be making one of these black bands that's in this work in progress. So let's go ahead and get started. You should be on the move tool here. If you're not, go ahead and make sure you are. And before we always start, we want to make sure our workspaces are on essential and we've reset our essentials just so everybody's on the same page. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to actually go to the next tool down, which is the Marquee tool. And a Marquee tool works in the following way. You click, hold, and you drag, and you make a little rectangle, right? You can click, hold, and drag and make any shape you want. I'm not sure if you're seeing it, but there's marching ants everywhere. What I'd like you to do is make a rectangle that's about the same width as what we're seeing in the template there. So something that's about the same width. And if you do that, you'll make this rectangle. I don't care how tall it is, but we're just going to fill this rectangle with the color black. So down here in our tool palette, the foreground color should be black. So I'm going to select the black, make sure that the new color is black. And then we're going to go to our gradient tool, which is also the paint bucket tool. And I'm going to make sure it's on paint bucket. And I'm just going to fill in that rectangle. As you can kind of see, because I have that selection, it's only filling inside of that rectangle. So if you try to fill out here, it doesn't work. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is, because we have a selection, I'm going to go to select and deselect. And now that rectangle, if I go back to the move tool, can be moved around, as you can kind of see here. Because that template is a little dark, bright, I'm going to actually select it here, unlock it temporarily. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit so that I can actually see through it. So 50% opacity. And then I'm going to go ahead and lock it again, just so I don't accidentally select it. And go back to my band layer. Now what I'm going to do is actually rotate this so that it's in the same orientation as the other bands here. So from the last tutorial, we went to Edit, Transform, Free Transform. And Command T is the keyboard shortcut. And what I'm going to do is just try to figure out what it is based on what I'm seeing here. It looks like about 34 or 35 maybe. I'm just going to type maybe 33 and a third is what we've got here. I'm pretty good with this. I'm going to move it into an approximate position. I'm also going to hold the Shift key down and extend it a little bit so that it goes beyond, so that I can cut off this bottom and the top at a later point here. And I'm going to hit return when I'm happy with that. At this point, that is the band that I'm going to be working with. So in order to make multiple bands, obviously I could just jump this layer to a new layer, but there's an easier way. I can select this layer, holding the Option key down and dragging, I can create a new band just by moving it to the right. I'm going to visually approximate how far away everything is, and then I'm going to let go. Because I've done this once, I can do this again. So holding the Option key and again, visually approximating, letting go. Option key held down, moving it, letting it go. And they're snapping so that they're approximately even. So this Photoshop knows what's going on. Now, you'll notice that I've made 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. If I want to move this one to the left, I have to go back to that layer, the original band. I'll hold the Option key down and drag that until I hit that snap. You'll see it snap, and then there you go. And I'm going to do this one more time until it snaps, and let go. At this point, I have all the layers I need, and what I'm going to do is trim the bottom here, but first I have to get all these layers to actually be on one layer, because if I were to do something to one, it will only do it to the one. So what I'm going to do is hold the Shift key down and select all the band layers. And you can see they're all selected at this point. And what I'm going to do is now merge these together. Keyboard shortcut for merge is Command E, but you can go to Layer, and way down here at the bottom here is merge layers, Command E. And now, as you can see right here, I've got this band area that's all ready for me to do something with. If you don't have your rulers available visibly here, Command R will bring them back into focus, because what we're going to do is we're going to use our template to kind of figure out where the top line is here, and use our guides to actually create a line here. And what I'm going to do with this, and I'm going to also do it up here, is I'm going to use my Marquee tool again, and I'm going to draw a big rectangle that goes all the way across that actually overlaps the parts of the things that I've made, and then I'm going to hit the delete key. When I do that, everything in that rectangle gets deleted. I'm going to deselect, so under select, deselect, or Command D, and get rid of the guides. So go to View, Clear Guides, and now what I have, as you can kind of see, is the top part of that stripes the way I really want it. In order to take those stripes and bring them down to the bottom here, we can do the same thing, or we can just duplicate this band copy, and this time I am going to select that layer and jump it, Command J, and I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down so that it doesn't move left or right. I want it to look pretty correct here, and that looks about right. And then that's not exactly looking good, so I'm going to use the arrow keys to move them until it feels like they are in the same orientation here as my template. Pretty close, right? Something like that. And now we're going to use the Marquee tool again, and we're just going to trim off the top. This time I'm going to go a little lower than the template because I need to get as much of that top off as possible. So something like that. Deselect. And now all I need is to put the text in the middle and maybe add a yellow background and some texture. So let's go ahead and do that. T for text, and that'll get us to the text tool. And I'm going to select this font that I kind of like. It's called Beboss New. It's just something I like, and I'm just type work. And notice that the font is ridiculously big from my last attempt at using this. So at this top bar here, you can see the font size and points, and I'm going to bring that point size to something like 100. Just for this, every type is different, but 100 points is good. And again, I want to get to that BB thing, and I'm going to type work. Select it, there we go. Work in, and then I'm going to hit return progress. P-R-O-G-E-S-S. And you'll notice it's a little bit off screen. Now you'll notice that this is left aligned, so we want to fix that. So if you went to the Properties tab, you can see some of the Properties tabs here, or we could go to the window with the character window that we had open before, and that'll have this Paragraph tab that'll allow you to center stuff. So now that I've selected the center here, or you could do it here, you can now get this to center right in the space. Now you'll notice that the words are a little bit spaced far apart, and that is because in the character tab, this VA here is at 25. You'll notice that if I click and hold it, that looks good actually. It's this, let's see, where is it? Oh, it's right above the VA. It's the difference in spacing between two lines. And currently it was set at I guess the auto was something like that. But I'm going to actually bring it together until it's until I visually like what I'm seeing. Kind of do, I like that. You notice that this font has the word regular here, and that's the only choice. Most other fonts will have italics or bold, so you can actually choose that as well for other fonts. It looks like I am happy with what I've got, so I'm going to close this character tab so it's out of the way, and you'll notice the word work in progress here. I'm going to turn off the template layer so we can see what we've got so far. We obviously need something yellow. We can use that, or we could use a photo if we wanted to. So let's go ahead and make a new layer, call this yellow. And I'm going to use my fill tool to fill it with the color yellow. So I'm going to select the paint bucket tool, click on the color swatch. I'm going to go to the hue, pick yellow, and then move my, pick a dark, more orange yellow, maybe not so bright, and hit OK. And then I'm going to fill this in. And you'll notice because the word yellow is on top, it actually covers everything over. So we're going to move that underneath. And now at this point, I've actually created a work in progress thing. And now we just need to add some texture. So I'm going to go to my some of the images that I've provided for you. I'm going to just show you those on the desktop. One of them is this texture of some wood that I found. I just took a photograph of wood. Concrete would work. It would be great for that. But what I'm going to do is just drag this in to the space. I'm going to turn it so that it's in the right orientation. Holding the Shift key down will snap it. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, just so I have plenty of texture, because I actually don't want that line across. So I'm just making it, remember, this is just texture. We're just going to be using this as texture. Pretty big. There we go. A little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to hit return. Remember, because we drag this in, it's a smart object, smart layer. So we're going to control click on the words and go to rasterize. Okay. I'm going to bring this texture to the top of the stack so that it hides everything. And I can obviously use my opacity, but that's just kind of fading things in and out. Let's try some of the blend modes. So darken, multiply, linear burn. So you can kind of see how just adding that texture layer, which is really nothing more than just something that we found, is actually changing the nature of everything here. Let's try soft light. Hard light looks really good. And I'm going to now dial back the opacity a little bit. And I'm feeling like this is pretty good. Now, if I wanted to make the work in progress stronger, I could always move this texture layer below the word work in progress. But at this point, it kind of brings everything together. And so this is something that is ready now to upload if I wanted to the UPrint, if this was where we wanted to stop. I want to show you another possibility. And by the way, can you notice that on these layers here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers plus the background yellow. And then all the other stuff that we use to kind of create the layer started with is like hidden at the bottom here. I'm going to now bring in one more image. This image, you should have it. It should be, yeah, let's go ahead and, I like this image. This is kind of like the gallery I took from the front. So I'm going to bring in 1557 into my space. I'm going to make it bigger than it needs to be. Not too big. Let's see, something like that. And I'm going to hit the return key and I'm going to change it again, rasterize layer, so it's a regular layer. And I'm going to put this above everything. And I'm going to modify the opacity, and I'm trying to look to see how this functions together with what we've got. So you can kind of see, like, just by changing the blend modes to something like multiply, putting it on top, changing the opacity to something like 75%, maybe 50%. Now we have a little bit of that gallery, a little bit of the look there. And maybe I'm not as happy with the yellow. Maybe actually, if I move this to the bottom part of the stack and make the gallery the background, bring the opacity back up, turn it to normal. Now maybe I have something. No, I think it wasn't as good as before. I liked it yellow. Something's just not happening really nicely here. But you can kind of see what you're doing here. What you're doing is you're just mixing different things visually until you kind of come up with something you like. I could turn this yellow layer back on, put it above, maybe change the opacity of the yellow layer, maybe the blend mode as well, to give it a yellow feeling. So what I'm doing is just moving things around and playing with the blend mode now that I've got something going on here that I like. One of the problems with this is that the work in progress is just this, the black is like too black and it's competing with that sculpture. One possibility is just to select that text layer, double click it to select it, and then change the text color to maybe white. See how that looks. And again, you're always playing with different possibilities. Have some fun with this, explore it. Maybe a different photo would work. Like I took a photo of myself, something with that doesn't have a lot of black in it. Maybe this one would work better. So again, I'm just bringing that in, making it larger. There we go, hitting return. And now using that as the background. And again, getting rid of the rasterization for that layer. And you can kind of see already that there's like a whole different sensibility with this photo in the frame. So hopefully this helps for the first part. I'm going to give you guys a second tutorial that works with the idea of transforming and working with the photographs instead of building something. But have fun with this. See if you could use some of your photographs to make your own work in progress postcard. By the way, when you're ready to export this, you're obviously going to save this as a Photoshop document. So you go File, Save As, and make sure it's a Photoshop document. I'm going to save it on my desktop so I can find it. But this is not what you're going to be turning in. In order for this to work, you need to go to File, Save As, and the second time you want to save this as a JPEG. This will flatten everything and make it possible for us to upload it to the website. There was a maximum size of 12 megabytes. It's under 12 megabytes. It's 3 megabytes. We're going to hit OK. And now if you'll notice, if I go back to my area here to upload my file, let's see, I've got 5x7s. Yep. If I can upload my file now, you'll see right here, I can select upload file from computer and go to my JPEG this time, because you're not going to upload the Photoshop file. And you'll notice right here, it's uploading. It's going to give you a little bit of a check. File successfully received. It looks good by the system. It's being processed now. And so that part is done. And now all you have to do is do the backside. And that's how it would work if you were actually doing this for a client. Hope that helps.